In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the inner tie rod on this Chevy Silverado 2500. Let's install this brand new TRQ part. Let's remove the wheel. If your truck has these center caps, you're going to want a 22mm socket, the same as for your lug nuts, and remove all of these plastic covers, unthread them to pull the center cap off. If your truck doesn't have this, of course, just skip this step. Now take off all of your lug nuts with the same socket, 22mm. Now remove the wheel. With the wheel off, you can see the inner and outer tie rod here. Let's break free the jam nut that holds the two of them together so we can separate them. Use a 24mm wrench, get it on here, try to break it free. Mine is fairly rusty, so I'm going to do the best I can. May or may not need to apply some heat. This is fairly stuck here, so I'm going to take a rubber mallet, tap the end of the wrench. Okay, looks like it worked. The inner tie rod is spinning with that jam nut, but that's okay. Take a 21mm socket, remove the nut that holds the tie rod stud through the knuckle. Put that nut back on just a couple turns, and then take a hammer, tap the knuckle to separate the two. There we go. Take that nut off. Now you can get the tie rod down and out. When you unthread the tie rod, count the amount of turns that it takes to remove it, because we're going to want to put it on the same amount of turns. You do still need an alignment after this job, but this will get you fairly close so you can at least safely drive to your local alignment shop. "25 turns for me. Of course, that does not mean it's going to be the same for you. Here's your outer tie rod. To remove the inner tie rod, you're going to need some large, very large pliers or a large wrench. Mine is fairly rusty, so a wrench is most likely going to slip off, so I'm just going to use these large pliers. I'm going to grab onto the inboard side of this tie rod right where it threads on, and once you clamp it on tight, give it a good push and it should pop free. There we go. Need quite a bit of leverage here. There's your inner tie rod. You can see there was a lot of red thread locker in there, which is a good thing. I'm going to add some again. However, I do want to clean some of the existing thread locker in there. The best way that I could come up with cleaning it off is to just grab a pick, try to scrape it. Obviously don't damage the threads. A pick should not be hard enough to damage threads like this. This is hardened steel, but once you get most of it off, you can safely add some new red thread locker to the new tie rod, and we'll reinstall. Take the new inner tie rod, thread it on. To tighten up this tie rod, you can either use those same pliers that you used before or a large wrench. It should be a 1.5 inch cutout here, so that's why I'm using an adjustable. I don't have a regular 1.5 inch wrench. I'm just going to snug it up the best I can. You just want to twist it in place until it locks in and feels like it's nice and tight. It does have red thread locker on it, so it should be locked in. At this point, I'm going to put my wrench back on and just tap it a few times with the rubber mallet. That should be good right there. Now I'm going to back off the jam nut on the inner tie rod so that I can coat all these threads in some anti-seize. I highly recommend that so that the two don't seize together. Just a light coating will do the trick. Now I'm going to bring this jam nut closer to work that anti-seize into the threads. Add a little bit extra. Bring it back, and now let's put our outer tie rod back the same amount of turns that we took it off. That's 25 turns for me, so I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to bring that jam nut a little bit closer now. Get the tie rod through the knuckle. Start the castle nut on. And at this point, if you'll notice, there's a slot in this stud here, and that's so you can turn it to line up the cotter pin slot so you can more easily get to it. Mine is actually at a pretty bad angle. It goes in from here, ends here. This is fine, but I like to move it so that it goes this way, so it's going to be a lot easier to deal with. So I'm going to take a little pry bar and just spin it like that. As you can see, now the slot goes this way, so that's perfect for me. Snug it up. The torque for this is 44 foot-pounds. However, you do need to line up the cotter pin slot. So if you get to 44 and it's not lined up, continue tightening and not loosening to get it to line up. Okay, actually, mine is pretty spot on here, so that's good. Slide it through and bend it over. There you go. Let's tighten up the jam nut again, bottom it out, take your 24mm wrench and give it a quick snug. Doesn't have to be crazy tight, but it does have to lock these two together. Of course, the final tightening will be done by your alignment professional at the alignment shop, so you want to make sure that at this point, after you put the wheel back on, you do the other side if you need to, and then go get an alignment. Put the wheel back on. Start on all 8 of your lug nuts, bottom them out in a cross pattern, and also in a cross pattern, torque them to 140 foot-pounds. A 140 foot-pounds in a cross pattern, here we go. Double check them. And of course, if your truck had one of these center caps that screws onto each lug nut, put it on, and with that same 22mm socket, tighten it back up so it doesn't go flying while you drive down the road. I don't recommend using a power tool on these because they are very delicate. You can easily strip out the threads if you're not careful, and it will fall off at that point if it's not held on properly. All right, those are all tight. There you have it. Take it for a road test, and don't forget to get an alignment.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.